Welcome to the Developing Life Podcast.
What if every space you entered told a story and made you feel like you belonged inside it? That's the question Ryan Summers has been answering for more than 2 decades. He's made the impossible real by blending cinematic craft with human connection, whether through a breathtaking hotel lobby that plays like a scene from a movie, a flagship store that transports you to another world, or digital spaces that seem almost tangible. His career spans the high-octane visuals of Pacific Rim and Person of Interest to brand experiences for Warner Brothers, Canada Goose, and Blizzard, each one designed to leave an impression that lasts. His skill set is one honed through curiosity, bold creative risks, and a deep respect for the people who step into the worlds he builds. What truly ties it all together is Ryan's belief that the best work isn't just seen, it's felt. Today, with our host Heather Crank, we'll step inside a career built on bold choices, world-class craft, and a passion for connecting people through the power of story.
Ryan Summers, welcome to the Developing Life Podcast.
Heather, did you write that? Because I feel like this is your life. Like you're gonna just bring in people from my past. Just like that was ridiculous. Like way more than I deserve. But thank you very much. That was crazy.
You're welcome. Devron actually wrote that, so you can.
Devron, I will pay you to write the next thing somebody has to say about me.
Oh, so Ryan, I'm so glad to see you. I think it's been about 7 or 8 years since we last actually met in person. Well,
yes.
Person, virtually. So I'm thrilled to be able to ask you a lot of questions. There's a lot going on in the world, but what I want to start with first is some of your history.
Sure.
So you began your career in science, and then somehow you ended up in motion and animation. How did that happen?
Oh man, it's so crazy. I mean, I have to say thank you before we get going, because that was when we actually met in person was for the Ben Design Conference, which was one of my favorite conferences to go to. And you gave me my first opportunity to actually like get on stage and talk about like not just my career, but like opinions on just like the industry. And that was a very formative thing for me. So just, thank you very much. It kind of changed the arc for me quite a bit. But one of the things we talked about then, I think, what was the title? It was like the artist guide to the scientific method.
Yes.
Is that right? Am I remembering that?
Yes.
And it was great because I was really struggling to figure out what to talk about, because I hate talking about myself, but I love talking about people's journeys. And you kind of forced me to think back, like, yeah, I went to school for chemical engineering for a lot of reasons, good and bad. And I had kind of like this just very like mid college career discovery of like, oh my God, you can do the things you love for a living. And that might sound trite now. That probably sounds stupid now. But like back then there weren't a lot of places where you could actually figure out like, oh, if you drew or if you liked grabbing a camera and filming things, or you thought animation was neat. Unless you lived in LA or a couple other places, there wasn't even like a pathway or a peer to talk to about it. And I had a lot of different factors that kind of pushed me towards doing something I was good at with science. But your pushing me to do the talk was great, because I really realized that a lot of things that formed my ideas of art were based on like training, like rigorous training, and like a career that was aiming to be a scientist, like powers of observation and testing and reporting and creating this cycle of like a feedback loop of what your obsessions are. And then you take them apart, you figure out the different materials. And then in science, the goal is to figure out how something works and reassemble it in a different way and test it. And in a lot of ways, I never knew I wanted to be a creative director working in like the creative arts industries. That has helped me so much to look at almost any problem with that same scientific point of view of like, there's a problem, there's a solution, there are different elements, you take them apart and you rebuild them to try to like, that's basically pop culture. Like, we have all these things in a mix, and you basically nothing's new, but the remix is the new thing. So it shocked me actually having to write that speech and sit down and talk about it out loud. How much I think one of the things I said during the talk was that I'm really happy to feel like I don't view those as negatives or opposing forces, especially now 8 years later in a world where everything is binary opposition and fighting with each other. It was really, really kind of fun to go back and watch that speech to be like, I feel like that's one thing I said that still rings true to me even more now, is that they're just two different prisms or viewpoints looking for the same truth, but from opposite ends of the spectrum. and they actually complement each other really well. And there is a natural path for someone who has a scientific training to be an artist, or somebody with an artistic bent to learn something from science. And that has, especially in the last 3 or 4 years of my life, has benefited me so much as I go a little bit away from the on the box making.
Mhm.
Like I like to say that in the creative industry, there's three phases. There's three things or modalities you could think of. You can either be in the lab, you can be in the factory, or you can be in the mind of your customer or your audience. And I think when you said that, I realized like, yeah, being in the lab and being with the person who's using it are actually the places that my weird past has become a superpower. As much as I love making stuff, that's so still like, super exciting. But it kind of being able to be forced to have that thought with myself in that conversation kind of created the arc. It made everything make sense. So I guess
Mhm.
that's a double. Is that a double? Thank you. Thank you twice. Like, it was amazing to kind of revisit that again recently.
Thank you, Ryan. Okay, so you've or not moved, maybe you incorporated your scientific background into animation, and you're moving along your career, moving into creative direction, more into business. And
Mhm.
then I see your Substack post, which if you're not following Ryan, please check out Keys and Curves. I see your Substack post and you've been laid off. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, how is this possible? So how are you doing? Um,
Yeah.
how did that
Um,
go?
Thank you. It's weird to say wonderful, and I feel so much better for having it had happen. Because it's not knocking down anybody who's been through that, because we know I call motion design a field now, less of an industry, but any kind of creative field right now where
Mhm.
you're working professionally. Um, it feels special to be able to have experienced that similar thing that I feel like a lot of people are going through it now, whether it's the uncertainty before a layoff or an actual kind of surprise layoff, whatever that might be.
Mhm.
Um, because I feel like I have this like crazy sense of optimism. I feel like it gives me a lot more capability to be like, it's founded in truth, because I literally went through the worst thing you could possibly go through at one of the worst times you could go through. And I'm on the other side of it, still figuring things out, as we probably all will always. But I feel a lot stronger for it. But yeah, no, I think it's probably 2 months ago. It was like 2 days before May 1st. So whatever that would be, I got a text message from my owner saying I need to talk, and I knew exactly what that meant. And then it was like just a basically like, hey, it's not you, it's us. We have to lay you off. Business has been slow and we haven't been able to figure it out. So rather than keeping you around for uncertainty, we're going to let you go.
Mhm.
And I think for about 2 hours, I went through every kind of whatever those seven steps, the seven stages are. Like, I was shocked, I was angry, I was deadly afraid. I was questioning whether it was actually happening. And then I think about 2 hours into it, I just snapped into like, let's go to work.
Mhm.
And go to work meant the thing that I've been preaching. I do a lot of like coaching, and anybody listening to this can get open office hour times with me. Um, I just started using things that I've been applying to other people to myself. And I was like, now this is where I really get to test if what I've been saying is true or useful at all. But I
Uh-huh.
really started testing my network and relying on that. And I started doubling down on, it's not necessarily about the final pixels that you provide, it's about the other things that you provide. I'm a big proponent that every artist, the inputs are are an order of magnitude more valuable than your outputs. And a lot of people get very mad at me because they hold on to the making as the thing that defines their identity as an artist. But I really do think, especially under the pressures that we're now receiving, and I'm sure with you we will talk about AI today, but AI, the economic pressures that have nothing to do with what we do, but we have to deal with, the geopolitical considerations, the changing value of creativity, what brands mean, all that stuff. The moat that protects you as an artist is here, not necessarily your hand or your pen or the thing that you use to render with. And I feel like that's slowly become a mission for me for the last 10 years of like trying to really reinforce to people that what you bring to the table isn't just what you make. It's not the only thing that is your identity or your definition.
I think that's super important, especially with AI and the way that it's evolving and the trajectory that we seem to be on. Um, your brain is going to be your biggest tool and your biggest
Mhm.
asset. Right now, there are a lot of people who are like me. The creative industry is up and down, and we're in work and out of work, and people are trying to jump into this industry out of school, and everybody's confused, everybody's struggling.
Mhm.
From your perspective, um, what advice would you give people going through this yourself
Yeah.
on how to navigate the uncertainty and sort of the turbulent industry or
Yeah.
field we're in?
I love that question because I feel like it's something that everybody for every generation has had to deal with. But I think it's very peculiar now because we live in a time, we were joking about this right before we went live. There's never been a bigger supply of training. There's
Mm-hmm.
never been a greater range of tools. But I
Mm-hmm.
really feel like both the training tools don't actually speak to the things that most artists need the most
Mm-hmm.
and have always needed, but especially now. Like I have had so many conversations and I've actually had to like privately reach out to people who maybe on LinkedIn or somewhere else complain openly like, I've spent my whole life being an artist. Why do I have to also be a business? And I will say, like
Mm-hmm.
right now, that is the one place where I kind of hold the line of like, if you are working professionally, even if what you think is you want to is to like be a freelancer and you're saying that, like what you're saying is you want a job. And at that point, it means that you're giving up quite a bit of control in a lot of different things in terms of developing your voice, your vision, your obsessions, your base of what makes you you. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't, it doesn't mean that I'm saying like everybody needs to be a freelancer, but I do think you need to start, especially if you're coming out of school, because very few schools teach you anything about entrepreneurship or
Mm-hmm.
business or
Mm-hmm.
and not even like the rudimentary gritty details, just the psychological mindset of saying I have to be able to demonstrate how I can fill up a blank screen or page every day to get paid and then wake up the next day and do it again.
Mm-hmm.
That is a deep set of like psychological entrepreneurship business that has nothing to do with like if you need to learn Houdini or Rive or anything. um a lot of my advice is like spend as much time while you're in school building your network, identifying your superpowers, understanding what your personality is, being able to evoke what your brand is as a creative. As much as it's a dirty word and we all hate it and it sucks, brand is really important now. Like to be
Mm-hmm.
able to cut through the noise. If there are 5,000, I can give you the best example. A few years ago, I had to hire two artists. And I think it was, I had to look through 442 demo reels in 2 weeks.
Oof. Oh my
And
God.
I'm a fan of anybody who sends me a reel, like right now, like we'll send at the end, we'll tell you the link to be able to like, if you want to reach out to me and do an open office, I look at more reels. I think I look at them as reels as possible, at least in motion design. And I am a fan of every single reel that shows up. But I have to tell you, the reality of that world is when you have to look at 100 reels while you're trying to eat lunch at your desk, you very quickly going from rooting for everybody to being like, give me a reason to skip, give me a reason to move on to the next
Oh,
one.
wow.
And I like for me, it's like I was really almost like repulsed by how cutthroat I had to be in those conversations of just like looking at reels. At the end of the day of looking at 442 demo reels while we were looking for middleweight animator and a middleweight designer, we
Mhm.
only reached out to 12 of them
Wow. Seriously.
because the lack of specificity, the lack of understanding who they were and what they were applying for. Like our middleweight job description was pretty specific. Shockingly, the amount of people that had no way for me to even contact them
No.
between their demo reel and their resume, just not even having like an email or a link that was working to a website. Um, that's business stuff. That has nothing to do with being an artist or your
Mhm.
artistic style or your look. So that's getting really into the weeds. But and I will say the two people we ended up hiring were both people who had previous relationships with somebody at the company and came as a personal recommendation. So what
Mhm.
does that mean? Network and branding.
Mhm.
So, and if I was getting super, super granular and super specific, there's anything I would take away about somebody coming out of school or someone struggling to find their next job, focus on three very specific things across your entire persona, across your reel, your website, your work, the way you talk on LinkedIn, if you use LinkedIn, how you speak at social media, how you enter into like a real world conference if we were all hanging out together. Try to figure out how to be the most brief, most specific, most memorable version of yourself. Those three things. Those get very, very granular, and we can, talk about this further, but brief, specific, and memorable. How do you do that as somebody coming out of school? Someone's worked for as long as you and I have both worked, like it's a constant question you have to kind of always kind of evaluate, like almost on like a quarterly basis, like a company, like
Mhm.
a publicly traded company has to
Mhm.
report to their shareholders, here's how we're doing these things. It's something you should be doing yourself all the time.
So basically, what you're saying is one, you should probably do a self audit
Oh
every
yeah.
so often to make sure your voice hasn't changed, update your skills. Um, how would you recommend somebody go about developing their voice or their brand? Can you give me three recommendations?
Yeah, so I always say I break into those three things: obsessions, voice, and vision. Obsessions being the stuff you came to the world of motion design or animation or
Mhm.
school before you ever got there. Your vision, what do you want to see out in the world?
Mm.
What is it that you would do if you weren't getting paid or if you have to stay up? to 2 in the morning to achieve. So what's your vision for the world and yourself in it? And then your voice. How do you express that? Do you express it through LinkedIn posts? Do you express it through personal projects? Do you express it through organizing people like this and having a podcast? Like, what are those things? Those are the three things I tell all the time: obsessions, voice, and vision. Because it's kind of like past, present, and future as well.
True. And
And
then
you treat those like a job, right? You track those, however you feel. Like I have a whiteboard that has all the stuff that I'm trying to keep track of. If I wasn't moving right now, I have like literally like a string of wire with all the stuff that I'm working on. So I can. One big thing I would recommend to people is get out of digital in terms of reminding yourself of what your goals are and those three things. If it's a whiteboard, if it's whatever it might be, like being able to physically surround yourself with like your past, your present, and your future goals is another like kind of tactical thing, because I love digital tools and I'm always trying to-do list and Evernote and like Raycast just got released for Windows. Like I love those things, but those are things that like keep the happy accidents and the correlations from occurring, because you're not looking at them. You don't see them when you're tired. You're not looking at them. You're definitely not looking at those things when you're bored, right? Or like those are purpose-driven interfaces, so they only allow certain kinds of interactions. But when you could just have it around, and you're like, I don't want to think about this assignment, and then you look and you're like, what? Why did I even print that out and stick? Oh, and then you see another thing from a totally different part of your brain out in front of you. Um, Creating a space that allows for those kind of. Sometimes I feel like it's a little nuts. Like it's like in every murder mystery, they always have that guy with the red string. And he's got the board and there's, but like in some ways it is taking your brain and putting it out into a physical space where you can kind of make those connections.
yeah,
I don't know if those three things make sense to people, but that's where I try to live in.
it makes perfect sense. And also we're kind of hardwired physically through the way that we move, and that even using your left hand versus your right hand that activate certain centers in your brain. We're
Yeah.
so all about optimization, which I
Mhm.
love, and the computer, but it really does not have the same physicality and, like you said, outcomes of doing things with your hands.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, so how would you advise people if you're a little bit shy or introverted, which a lot of us are who work in this industry, to get the courage to get out there, have a voice, and
Mhm.
be present so people can see them?
I mean, I'm that way, right? Like, I'm
Mhm.
sure it sounds stupid for me to say that now, but like when I was coming out of school, this is something I talked about in the speech. Like, I couldn't do this. I couldn't
Mhm.
talk. I couldn't like publicly. Like, if it was me and one other person, I'd find. But I actually had to go to like take like a speech class three semesters in a row, and I was very lucky to find somebody who identified some of the issues and was like, come back and audit the class. I know how to fix this, but it's going to take reps. It's going to take time. Um, I feel like it's so weird because it's like with everything being digital and everything being remote and everything being possible, we're like somehow simultaneously connected more than we ever were, but also wildly disconnected, right? So like even just doing something like this is amazing because it's like I can see faces, I can hear voices. But most of the time you live in Slack or you live in your social media
Mhm.
platform of choice and
Mhm.
you just do your work and occasionally you take a Zoom call with a client. But like for me, if I was introverted, I would try to find ways to, whether even before you go into physical spaces, I would try to find ways that aren't shining a spotlight on me, because I feel like sometimes that's where it comes from. Like I'm either not worthy or my questions might sound dumb, or if it's identified as me, I would try to find more times just like there's this term, this is so dumb. I'm gonna use a professional wrestling term. But there's this whole idea in professional wrestling about the people who are the most valuable are the ones who can make other people look good, and it's called giving the shine. There's a
Mhm.
moment in almost every wrestling match where the bad guy, the bad guy in the match gives
Mhm.
the shine to the younger good guy to make it
Mhm.
like, how could this person do this to this person? Like how could, and it's called, and it's basically like reverse psychology of being like reversing expectations. So I've always tried to demonstrate kind of like humility by sharing or spotlighting people that are people I would like to get to know, or people who I just admire in a non-transactional way, like not asking for anything. So like back in the day when Twitter was actually a place you'd want to spend time at, and it wasn't just about fighting each other, I feel like I was able to make a lot of connections just by saying like, I found this dope thing.
Mhm.
Does anybody else think this thing is dope? Can we find the person who made it and ask them how they did something? And that's where keys, like my email newsletter, like that's what Keys and Curves is basically a natural extension of. Just trying to find an audience of people who are interested in stuff and want to know how it got made, and just sharing and identifying. Like I really think, at least in the field of motion design, we hurt so much by not having like a site of record like Motionographer used to be in Art of the Title, when they were healthy and vibrant and it was the place everybody checked every morning. We don't have those again, we're widely connected.
Yep.
We can see and feel more things than we've ever been able to, but we're so disconnected that because there's so much we don't even talk about it. Like, to me, it's so wild in motion design that we don't have a place where we celebrate and elevate and spotlight people as a monoculture of motion design, right? Like, either people don't care, they haven't been trained how to care or identify it, or they're just so busy they don't give, they just don't think it's important. But I think that's the first sign that like a field or an industry is in trouble, is when they don't actually celebrate their own work amongst themselves. And I don't think we do that to any degree anymore.
Ooh, that's a really good point. Do you think the industry is shrinking?
No, I really don't. That's where I feel like it's so weird. Is like, I feel like that's why I stopped calling it an industry. I think the field of motion design, which includes, in my definition of it, that includes animation, that includes video games, that like motion design to me. I think it's so weird right now because we're all feeling the new pressures of the world as it's changing. But I think the need and requirement and questions and curiosity of what it is we do at the core, maybe not the final pixel, at the core of what we do as like people who make things and move them and breathe life to them, the needs for it are expanding so fast we can't even identify it yet. Like, I stopped calling them, I stopped calling them like screens. I just started calling things canvases, which is where I started going into experience design. Is like the need to take a brand and make it move and give it life. The need to take a concept and explain it, not in a 30-second explainer video that sits on YouTube kind of way.
God.
Right. Like that is so like I feel like people have to kind of accept and understand the fact that like anything that's new is like a brand new car that comes off the lot when it's sold. Like, the value for something brand new, the second everybody knows how to do it, or there's a tool that kind of commodifies it, its value is almost automatically cut in half. And then it's just a timer for how long that, like, not that long ago, explainer videos were the thing that got so many people into School of Motion to learn how to move stuff and use After Effects just enough. And it was a cottage industry, and then it filled. But those tools, those abilities to communicate, those fundamentals of design and animation, that value has never gone away. It's just, where's the new place that needs that? And those things are coming online and changing all the time and expanding. It's just the way you got trained in school to do something and the value that was prescribed to that final pixel output will always diminish. And that's why I keep on like going back to being a thing. Don't build your identity and the way you position yourself based on your output and your final pixel, because that will wither and diminish. Build it around how you get to those final pixels and what makes you and your thought process unique. That's not saying everybody has to be a creative director, but the way you talk about your life as a working professional, that's what I would do. Like, I had a great example of somebody who reached out to me yesterday, and they're like, I've been working in broadcast for 10 years. I know that that's shrinking. Should I learn Houdini? Should I learn Rive? Should I go back to school to do this? Should I just quit? And I was like, those are all the wrong things to be thinking about. You have these amazing skills of like, what is it that you did in broadcast? Were you able to think in systems and create toolkits for a whole team to work? Were you able to create stuff that's rapidly, malleable at the last second? Were you able to create stuff that reacts to the world? Were you able to take somebody who has a question? I have a show and it's about a murder mystery and it needs to look different from these 5. I don't know how to do that. And you made title sequences that did that. Guess what? Every challenger brand in the world that has 5 of their competitors that use the same brand color, that have the same key benefits, they need you. But you are not identifying and positioning yourself and speaking to those people in a way for them to find you. So I don't know if that makes any sense, but it's like a constant battle I have all the time. It's like, you have so much more value than the thing you're again, lab, factory, mind of an audience or a client. Most of us are only tripling down and positioning on factory. So few people are talking about the lab or talking about the way we approach the mind of our audience.
True. So, taking all that into consideration, where do you think the industry is going?
I think just the very nature of what brand, like if we're saying motion design equals animation for advertising, which I don't think is the full sum of it. If we're just talking about that portion of it, I think the very nature of brand is being tested and questioned. Like, when you go to a website, when you go to a brand's website, like let's say Adidas, and the biggest growth that they're having is Adidas builds something
Mhm.
that allows you to generate an image using
Mhm.
whatever tool we may say generates it. I'm not going to get into that conversation, but maybe it's AI, maybe you built it, and you can create an entire essentially almost like mini personal campaign for your own stuff, but it just happens to be facilitated by Adidas, and they'll put the little three stripes on it somewhere.
Mhm.
What is a brand?
Mhm.
Because you're disintermediating everything that used to make a brand before. We're going to tightly control what the messaging is about our new stuff that also remembers the brand equity of the last 25 years. And
Mhm.
now you're just saying like, hey, we'll print a shirt for you like Zazzle, but we just got to make sure the Adidas logo's on there. The very question of what makes a brand is kind of
Mhm.
being unraveled. We have the ability to help as people who do animation for advertising, the
Mhm.
thought process that we give away, the pitching that we do, the deep thought, the looking into like the culture as it is today and trying to predict maybe 2 or 3 months into the future,
Mhm.
because we're working on so many different things. We don't work inside one silo that just does one thing.
Mhm.
That has so much value. That's not going to go away. So again, I would just say like it's finding ways to take those three things, obsession, voice, and vision, and put it at the front part of whenever you're saying like, here's why you should come and work with Studio X on your campaign or your
Mhm.
explainer video or
Mhm.
your SaaS service, because we
Mhm.
have this viewpoint and experience and knowledge that other people don't. Because that's a moat you can defend
Mhm.
in a
Mhm.
world full of anybody can make anything at any time.
Yep.
Well, okay, well, why? How? What's the
Yes.
connection to the past? What's this thing I
Yes.
see in the future that I'm
Yes.
predicting, right?
Yep.
Like,
Yep. Yep.
it's weird how it's like, I hate these words, but they're true. Taste and instinct are the moat against all this stuff.
So true.
But those words are so emotionally charged that I don't use them. I say obsession, voice, and vision because I think those are a little bit more human. We all have stuff we're obsessed about. There's all stuff when we were kids. We're like, oh, I love Voltron and F1 racing and McDonald's, right? Or whatever it might be for everybody has a unique recipe that got them to the stage to say, I want to be a working artist.
Mhm.
Live with those, connect to those, understand why. If you find something you love, like for me, what I love is finding the journey for someone to get to the point that they're identified. I've had like what makes David Fincher David Fincher? What
Mhm.
makes Ash Thorpe Ash Thorpe? I want to go to
Mhm.
the three orders back of like they don't even know why they like it. Like Ash Thorpe loves Akira. Okay, well, the guy who made Akira loved some things, and those guys and women loved other things that have nothing to do with the final pixel you see coming from Ash Thorpe. That's where your recipe lies, and that's your competitive advantage when everybody can conjure up anything in AI. Well, they're never going to think of the thing I'm going to think of. And I also
Exactly.
have these hand skills that they're never going to be able to then combine it in ways that an AI tool will not allow you to do, right? Like
Mhm. Mhm.
I again, I don't want to make this a whole AI conversation, but I feel like people are not, like we said, where are the classes and the thought leaders that give you the training to really refine those things, your obsession, your voice, your vision, because that's what four-year art schools used to do. You
Mm.
went away for 4 years to understand, define, and refine those things. And you
Mhm.
come out fully formed as an artist who then can be used in a lot of different ways by creative directors and brands. Um, there's got to be a way to connect back to that. Whether it doesn't mean you have to go to a 4-year school. I worked at School of Motion for 3 years. I have very, very strong opinions about walking away with $150,000 in debt, before
Yeah.
you ever get started.
Right.
But those are the things I would love to see more people talking about and arguing about and having podcasts about.
So it's going to be interesting because right now the whole educational system is really struggling and is under fire. Um, so I'm going to be curious, and I wonder what your thoughts are as schools are having trouble with funding and staying afloat, and staying relevant. I see a lot of schools that are just a little bit behind, and it's sort of their albatross.
Mhm.
Where should people go to train right now?
I mean, I still think like if you had the time and the inclination, the money, like I would never say like don't go to art center. I think there's some people that are my peers that are like that would rally against that or whatever, SCAD or whatever. Like
Yeah.
I mean, if you have the means and it doesn't hurt you, there's amazing people there that are going to be able to teach you amazing things. And then again, like we were saying, you have that amazing time of like having 4 classes the same semester that are totally unrelated that have these connections that you start to identify and rally around. And like, there's nothing wrong with that. Um, I I also know there's a lot of people who can't afford that or don't even have that
Hmm.
anywhere near them, and they're just relying on YouTube to teach them,
Hmm.
right? Like then I think it goes to I'll invoke his name like I do in every time I have a class. Like when I was working with Guillermo del Toro, he would always say this thing here. It's like all anybody ever wants to ingest is eye candy. He's like, but my
Mm.
job is to give them eye protein. Like
Oh.
your diet, like whatever it is your diet is, like whatever you're consuming, you can only, it's like the people who say you're the sum of the five people who spend the most time around.
Ooh.
Then I think as an artist, you're some of the five places or feeds or sources of inspiration, that you spend the most time around. Evaluate that, like what is it, like are you looking at photographers? Like I think Kat is on a call, is on here right now. She's an amazing creative director that I work with at Swarovski, and we're working on this project that is about a location in the 1830s, and we're pulling references from all kinds of crazy places. We're pulling Japanese street photographers, we're pulling painters from the Renaissance period, we're pulling movies that have nothing to do with the time or the place that it's at, but we're finding an emotional core that matches what we're trying to evoke from the viewer. I don't know if this answers anything you're asking, but I feel like I feel like it's like when you go to school, you spend a lot of time just focusing on yourself and not like the end audience. I think when you're living in like a creative arts industry, you spend so much time thinking about the audience or the client that you don't think about yourself. And I feel like the answer is normally like if you spend a lot of time in one space, afford yourself the ability to spend some time in the other space and have those be kind of in conversation with each other. I know I feel that all the time. I don't know if Kat feels this way. Like sometimes we spend so much time thinking about what the client needs that we forget that they came to us because for the most part, they don't really know what they need, or they're looking for us to add something or change something that otherwise they would just use their in-house brand team, right? Like that's why they would come out to a place like us. But if you're not feeding that and cultivating and questioning yourself, you're going to lose that. Like it's like going to the gym. It's a muscle you have to continually just like develop and build. So if you're asking me personally, like I will spend a lot of time, like I have like 5 or 6 places I'll go, but like I will spend a lot of time. There's a really cool, it's kind of like Pinterest without all of like the like enshittification of like modern apps. It's called Cosmos. I think it's Cosmos. And they pull, there's a lot of these new like smaller little like micro focus inspiration engines that are early enough now that they're just like back what the old day was, like when it was just like, here's a cool site. I can send you those and we can share them, but like there's just a lot of places that are like lightly curated inspiration sources. I don't have them here with me, but I got these little 16 by 9 like whatever post-it notes. And I actually there's a lot of them now, but there's a place called Shot Deck that the DP of Joker, he's done a bunch of other movies. He basically went to all the studios and licensed fully licensed like screen grabs from hundreds of feature films. But they are tagged by all kinds of crazy things, like what camera lens was used, what color palette, and you can go down this really fun like rabbit hole of you're like, okay, you know what? I'm not really good at doing establishing shot Western, and then it'll just fill up a page, and then you can click one, and then you can say like shots like this, or palettes like this, or lenses like this. And I literally just take like the dumbest drawing utensils I can, like really thick, fat markers, and like just like a one color through like grayscale tone, and I'll just like sit here while I'm drinking my coffee in the morning and listening to music, and I'll just do like 10 really quick studies on just these like everything's ephemeral, like throwaway paper, like tools that cannot be very like noodly and detailed, just to be like, cool, I need to free my brain from like the stuff we're staring at, all the marketing and advertising stuff. And it's just reconnecting. It could be totally different for you. Like it could be going out with a camera, doing street photography. It could be doing life drawing off of just like photos you find, but like connecting back to that sense of study and personal growth will unlock. It's just like you're saying, like getting your hands, like seeing people for real life or getting your hands around tactile things. That's a big thing for like daily habit for me. It's like you make your own little art gym that you try to go to as often as you can before you actually do your pain work.
Yeah, well, and it's also that concept development thing. I think one of the areas we need to be aware of is the laziness that is going to come with a lot of automation. The way to make yourself stand out is exactly what you're describing, is to continue to develop your skills, the way that you think, the way you develop concepts, how you pull ideas from a lot of different sources so that you give somebody a really visceral, unique point of view. I think that's super important.
Yeah, very much so.
So now that Twitter's gone, or it's there, but a lot of people have
it's
left.
Changed. Let's just say that it's different.
It's changed.
Yeah.
Is there another place that you've noticed where motion designers are hanging out, or are we still sort of adrift?
I that's something I lament. Like that's where I feel like I feel like an old person when I talk about this stuff, because I will say like I feel like I was able to like turbo boost my career because I did invest a lot early on specifically Twitter. You know, like when I
Mhm.
moved to LA from Chicago, I didn't think I knew anybody till I showed up somewhere and I posted that I was at a studio and then like four people came running like, oh my God, you're here. That I didn't know that just happened to be following me. So
Right.
I definitely I love what it was possible to do. I do think that we've all kind of retreated to our own kind of like dark alleys and hidden corners because there's a lot of conversation going on, but it's in little Discord groups of 20 people, or
Mhm.
it's you know like stuck in like private chat somewhere. And I think
Mhm.
that's just because people don't feel safe or people don't feel like
Mhm.
they're respected or valued.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm finding a lot more connection either doing stuff like this. Like my open office hours has been just a like a great way to when we went remote and because of COVID, just being able to still see people
Mhm.
and talk
Mhm.
to people.
Mhm.
I think there's a lot more people are doing a lot more like accountability groups where they're having tighter connections with a small group of people. I think those are all great, but I feel for like the just like in the greater sense of the world, the monoculture of motion design kind of got excuse me, disassembled, and I don't think it's
Mhm.
ever going to really be put back together in the same way. I mean, we're even seeing like like people used to rally around like Maxon doing presentations at
Mhm.
NAB and
Mhm.
SIGGRAPH, and I just
Mhm.
don't feel like there's anywhere near the amount of conversation or like those used to be like canon events sometimes, like someone would show something and now it just flipped the entire industry on its head. Like you can do what with what? And then it kind of washed through not just the artists doing stuff, but then because you knew that was possible, designers would see it, and then CDs would see what designers are doing, and then that would change what they would pitch to clients.
Mhm.
And then you'd have this kind of like it's still the snake eating its own tail, kind of like trend chasing, but it was initiated by our side for a little bit of time. You know,
Yeah.
like I could think when like Deluge showed off all the stuff he did for the for Tron, there's a bunch of stuff that people didn't know you could do, and then all of a sudden there's this explosion of like FUI stuff, like FUIs and HUD stuff that then just
Mhm.
worked into everything we were pitching. I
Mhm.
don't feel like we see that anymore as much. And I think that the whole AI of it all has made that even less because it's just I've never seen a faster like trend eating dragon than AI. Cause it's like as soon as somebody figures out, oh, I can make a QR code that looks like a landscape, and then then it gets out there, everybody does it, CD's an agency it, they sell
Yep.
it.
Yep.
5 different commercials come out the same week, and all of a sudden it's like, yeah, that's old. And
Yeah.
the lifespan of a trend is like 2 weeks, which is insane compared to like it used to be 2 years. So,
Yeah. So how do you keep up with that? That's a question I have all the time right now. I can't, how do I keep up with this?
I mean, what is? Sometimes it's even like, what is this? You know, like it's not. I mean, I honestly, I feel like that's actually like a thing that helps us all because there isn't one person can't have their thumb on everything because
Hmm.
it's like how much time do you spend on TikTok, and then how much time do you
Hmm.
spend trying to find what the next TikTok is because TikTok's not cool
Hmm.
anymore, or
Hmm.
TikTok's going to get shut down. So do we go to Blue
Hmm.
Sky and like no, Blue
Yep.
Sky's lame. Like that is actually defense. That actually a defense mechanism for it because then it returns back to like you don't need to be somebody who knows how to do 3 seconds of everything
Mm.
because it's impossible now. It's
Mhm.
impossible. So what we've been saying, like build build your persona on the things you care about, the things you have an opinion about, the things you feel like are coming up. And then that's the thing that people will find you for, right? Like that's the thing we're sorely missing in motion design. Like Kat and I all the time will be like, "No, we're just going to call the same person because we know they can do that when we
Mhm.
need a freelancer."
Mhm.
Versus 10 years ago, it used to be like, "Oh, I have 50 artists in my head that when this thing comes up, I'm calling them because
Yeah.
they do this one thing and they do it well enough and they are on their own journey of developing that. Not only can I tap into it, but I can actually help them further their journey because I'm giving them a stage to do it on." Right. Like
Mm.
I'm doing a pitch for Apple and I'm going to pull Mara Smalley. Like she's going to do a thing she's been doing, but now she's doing it in a place where if it goes, now she's going to be the person who's developing that for the next 3 years. Right. So
Mhm.
there's this kind of like communal kind of like interaction that, not to say that it doesn't happen now, but I just feel like I have my head around stuff. I wake up every morning, spend an hour on Behance looking to see what's new, and it all looks the same. And then
Mhm.
that moment you finally see someone doing something different or even doing something nostalgic, but with a new tool,
Oh
you're like,
yeah.
oh, bookmark. I'm reaching out. I'm doing business development too, but I'm doing it with artists, right? I'm reaching out to an
Right.
artist. I'm like, I want to get on a Zoom for 15 minutes. I want to talk to them. I want to find out what excites them. So I know that when a cool thing comes around, I'm calling them and they're going to be super stoked. And they're going to feel like they're being, like getting an opportunity to do something they haven't done yet.
Mhm.
Um, so like I personally, I'm always still kind of like, I feel like as I become more of a creative director, that's part of my job actually is
Mm.
like the call and response of like who's doing what, how can I help them? Let's see what they do. Let's call them back. Like that's kind of what the industry used to do all the time.
Mm. So I'm just going to pause here for a minute. if you have any questions for Ryan, please drop them in the chat. We have a hard out today, so I want to make sure I get to everybody's questions. I'm going to ask him one more question, and then we will do a Q&A. At 12:45, if you would like to turn on your camera and speak to Ryan directly, you're welcome to do that. We'll make sure you have permission. Okay, back to you, Ryan. Is there a particular moment in your trajectory, in your career, where you felt like reality as you know it was up for a redesign?
Yeah, I think, yeah, absolutely. And it goes back to that thing. I'm glad you asked that because it goes back to the whole idea of the monoculture. I don't think that that was good. Like, I remember when I was a kid and like everybody basically watched MTV, and basically what probably 10 people in the music industry decided was going to be cool, you would watch it, and then every music video would do the same, and then you'd see everybody in high school doing the same thing, and then that musician would show up at the end of the summer for a concert, and everybody would stop and the whole city would go to the concert. And it was not, I don't think that was necessarily a healthy thing. I think the absolute fragmentation across every board where there is no like discernible actual culture as well isn't necessarily the best thing either. But what I'm starting to feel is that a lot of people like the new thing everybody's talking about, it's not even that new, is like user generated content and ultimate like personal customization of the entertainment, to the point where I can finally talk about this because a company's actually doing it. But for like 5 or 6 years, there have been a lot of VC bootstrap stealth companies that are like going to Disney or going to Netflix to be like, we have this technology that if you want to put your boss's face on the Joker's face and watch Batman with you as the Batman and your boss is a Joker, you can pay $19.95, and 40 minutes later, all of Batman Begins will have you beating the shit out of your boss, but it's just the Batman movie. Like that, chasing that, I think, again, it's like a solution in search of a problem thing, where it's like everything is like hyper personalized down to like you live in a tiny little micro bubble of you and your own things, and that's it. I think what you're starting to see the reaction to is that sometimes we have these films that are so meticulously designed, or an experience like I know you and Meow Wolf have a long kind of like conversation in terms of like your relationship with them, or theme parks, the fact that we have this whole phenomenon of Disney adults now, which I am one of them. So I'm a pixie duster till I die. So it's not slamming on anybody, but like this, I think there is a human need, not necessarily just for connection or belonging, but to experience designed, curated experiences. So I think as we start saying, like, as brands start disintermediating themselves and say, you're the brand, you tell us what the campaign should be, you can make it. People at some point are going to have like an aversion to decision making. No one wants to hyper define every single thing and be like, oh, I want my food to look like this and I want my shoes to look like that. And like, it's nice as a novelty, but I think what we are already experiencing, like when you go and you see how people play Minecraft or Roblox, like they like making their own things. They also really like having something made for them in their own language, right? So I like when you say, does reality need a redesign? I think it's constantly going to be redesigned, but it isn't always going to be just by the micro individual person. I think that's a fallacy that like people who have this new tool, they're trying to sell you a capability that honestly nobody really wants all the time. I think what people really want is to be able to say, I'm going to go away to somewhere and ignore the rest of the world in something that, whether or not I know they did it, it's been handcrafted with intent down to the brick. And maybe I don't understand all the details and intricacies of all those bricks, but when I walk into something, it's like when I went and saw Sinners, it is the first time since maybe The Matrix as a movie that within 3 minutes, I just like relaxed. It's like, I'm in the hands of someone who knows exactly what they're doing. And they're going to take me on a ride. It is a fully formed thought universe. It has its references that it's honoring. It has its messages it's trying to say. And it's also just mindless fun, depending on however I want to take it. And I literally had this very visceral reaction of like, this is why I go to the fucking movies. I've been looking for this for like a decade. Like it wasn't made out of commerce. It wasn't made to be a slavish representation of something that came before. It was what we go to experiences for. I want to hear, what do we say? Your obsessions. I want to hear Ryan Coogler's voice. I want to see what he's obsessed about. The jazz. He's obsessed about vampire horror. He's obsessed about representing Mississippi in a way that's never been shown on film. And he has a vision. This is what I want to see entertainment look like in the future. And yes, exactly. It's the first movie I went to see in the theaters 3 times in a row in a weekend since I saw Drive. And before that, it was The Matrix, because I wanted to see it. Then I was so excited. I want to take my best friend to see it. Then I want to take as many people as I knew to go see it. And that's what I think people really crave for. And every time Hollywood's like, we don't understand why Barbie did so well, and they try to make it about a million different things, go to that movie. That's a movie that could only be made by that woman with that voice, with those obsessions. and then a team of thousands of people dedicated to that.
Mm-hmm.
So people keep on saying, "Oh, people are sick of the movies." Like, no, they're sick of being spoken down to. They're tired of not having an experience that was crafted by someone with something to say. And that goes around everything. I think you can do that with ads. You can do that with a 15-second pre-roll. You can
Mm-hmm.
do it with your own personal work. It's just when we started calling everything content and
Oh,
not what it is, like no, this is my line. No one is content with content. No one is content with it. When I watched, I'm like, that was a damn fine piece of content. It's like, yep, that was a thing I had to watch to get through to get to the thing I wanted to see.
yes.
But that doesn't mean that you can't make content the same way. When people do it really well, if you want to look up McDonald Land when you're done with this thing, there was a commercial campaign series 10 years ago called McDonald Land, and they finally brought it back. And when you first look at it, everyone got really pissed because, like, oh, McDonald's is doing AI. It's all this super psychedelic, super surreal, actual character and world building with physical props and real characters. And the designer of it, like a week ago, they came out and they had to come out and actually show all this behind the scenes making it to be like, this is not Midjourney, this is not Korea, this is not.
Wow.
We made stuff
Yeah.
because we have this voice and this vision. It's like it's so weird that a place like McDonald's is actually like making stuff that on the surface feels like content, but when you watch it, you're like, oh, I would go to an experiential engagement where there's actually this world that was made for me if that's my thing.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
yes, I think reality needs to be redesigned. The cry for it being redesigned will happen more and more, and it will be rewarded with like people's finances as they have less money to spend on fewer things. Their decision making, what they spend, will rely more on this versus, oh, I get AI generated stuff force fed to me. What's the other experience that I can have? It's not to say either is right or wrong, but like reality will be redesigned all the time for people's enjoyment, for people's education.
I love that. Ryan, I know you're moving more into creative directing and business. What's next for you?
Um, Hopefully, my big thing, I'm super, super thrilled and fortunate to be at Swarovski. I would love to be able to take what I have done and what Swarovski, there's this really amazing ethos that comes from Aaron Swarovski, who is the namesake for Swarovski, of combining technology with actual craftsmanship and warmth and personal vision. Um, I really, really want to extend that into taking spaces that are empty and devoid of like experience and making them places that people want to return to because they remember them, whatever that might be. I love doing all the other things. There's title sequences. Kat and I just had a really wonderful conversation about a title sequence job that we both can't stop smiling about. They have a ton of great people there who can do that. I would love to extend that ethos combined with what I love and I'm interested into experiential work where like you can physically touch it, you can sit in it, you can absorb it, you can experience it how like there's nothing better than an experience where there's some kids running to do every single thing and there's other people who just sit down in a chair and close their eyes and just soak in something and just like taking the music, taking the tactility of it, and the range of ways to experience something are all summed up in like the place. And that could be a lot of things. That could be a hotel lobby. That could be a subdivision kind of like rec room. It could be a museum. It could be a theme park. It could be almost anything. It could be a public space that like a government office is like, we have to make a park and we need to make it different. All those things need the things we do in unique ways that may or may not have screens, may not have interactive things, but I'm really excited about that. I don't think that's going to go away anytime soon.
That's cool. And if I'm going to jump into questions here, but before I do, if people want to book office hours with you,
Yep.
where do they find you?
It's if you've seen the app calendly.com/otternod. It's ODDERNOD. It's like my namesake I've used everywhere. It doesn't mean anything. And I'm sure you guys will share it out as well. But normally Tuesday through Thursday for about an hour, I do 15-minute increments. And I think I don't even know the numbers at. I need to check it, but I think I'm at like 1,300 or 1,400 of them over the last like 8 or 9 years. So it can be about anything. A lot of times people just want to like have somebody look at your reel or your website or get career advice. But if you just saw K-pop Demon Hunters and you want to talk about it, I got 15 minutes for you.
Okay, I'm going to jump into questions. Please, if you have any and you haven't posted it yet, put it in the chat. Or you're welcome to turn on your camera and let me know you'd like to speak with Ryan directly. Devron would like to know more about Ryan's thoughts in regards to the progression of the gaming industry and what potential he believes it has to unite people in a good way and what positive impacts he hopes the industry will have.
I I mean, I think that like AAA video game space is a frightening, awful place to consider what your career could be within it right now because it is in such kind of like disarray and transition for a lot of different reasons, a lot of like financial reasons and the AI of it all.
Mhm.
Um, I think the lessons learned as a young artist in some form of gaming
Mhm.
are wildly valuable. Like if you're just starting out and if you can find your way into an indie gaming space or a place that does indie gaming or does interactive that includes gaming for anything. I spent 6 years working at a slot machine company.
Oh.
About the least, like short of like working for an oil company or somebody selling cigarettes. But I learned so much about audience psychology and
Mhm.
and gaming mechanics at this time when
Mhm.
it was very early. But combining that with like the craftsmanship of like 2D animation or like Disney animation, I think it's a great. I don't think there's a lot of schools that it's shocking that there isn't like an art center of like gaming. Um,
Mm.
it's a like both wildly like mature field in terms of once you start working the people you can work with, but incredibly immature in terms of like just trying to get training in it. Like there will be people who will teach you the mechanics of like the factory side of it, but it's really hard to be in the lab or in the mind of an audience member for that if you're looking for schooling. That's where you get it from being at a company and doing it. There's never been a better time to actually start making your own games either, right? Like in terms of just for education purposes. I'm not going to say like you're going to make $1 million making a game, but the tools to be able to combine something like Rive with Unreal in a very lightweight way, and then combine it with something like Play and ship and launch stuff through like iOS is ridiculous. Like the access that you can have to just making something, testing it, getting some people playing, and then walking away and trying it again. That kind of stuff, if you want to get into motion design, will live with you forever the same way the fundamentals of design or animation will benefit you and eventually become like a superpower because interactive is a thing and experiential is a thing that is going to continue to grow as the tools grow, as the audiences, the people who are playing like there's a pipeline, right? It's like you play, and I'll mix up the order probably, but it's like you play Roblox, then you play Minecraft, then you play Fortnite. And there's a level of interactivity, an expectation of interactivity and sophisticated interaction
Mhm.
that all of our content platforms do not support because it's made by people 40 years older than them. But as those people all grow up and they become in a position, it's just like anime. As everybody grows up and they grew up on anime, starts growing into the position of being able to decide what gets made, you start seeing anime McDonald's commercials and Nissan never showing a real car, but a what is that, like a Tokyo Drift style
Mhm. Mhm.
commercial where it's all animated. 5 years ago that would never be allowable. Gaming and interactivity will do the same thing, and I think it's a great skill set to understand like when I press a button, how does my animation work? When I give someone a objective, how do the targets and triggers reward them? Like how do I balance a meta game and a mini game with an overall quest? Those are all things that as you start going into marketing and advertising,
Mhm.
no one in that world knows what those mean or how to use them. But it's the reason why like psychology for like YouTube viewers or for people on TikTok, that's all lessons learned from gaming and gambling.
Mm. Interesting. Dopamine.
Yeah, yeah, it's like a reward system. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Petrula, hello. Petrula has asked, I'm really interested in Ryan's concept of an aversion to decision making. Other than opportunities for creators, what are some of the good and the bad?
I say that again. I heard the
Okay.
aversion to decision making.
Yes, aversion to decision making.
Mhm.
Other than opportunities for creators, what are some of the good and the bad?
Well, I would say on decision making, I like I had it blown away from me when I sat with Guillermo while he was working on Pacific Rim, where he's like, the only thing worse than a bad decision is no decision. So you
Mhm.
have to get really good at making decisions, and not the decision you're making, but getting very comfortable with saying. He's like basically my job is every 10 minutes I get asked 100 questions. 99 of them I have to say no, and I have to figure out the right one to say yes to, and you have to
Mm.
get very comfortable with that. And I think it goes back to if you're into sports at all, which I know a lot of people aren't, like the whole point of sports is to learn how to fail as fast as you can so you can adjust.
Mm.
Right. So if we're talking about decision making, it's the same way. Like if I'm looking at something and I have an artist, if I spend 7 hours trying to figure out the perfect decision, I've just kneecapped and handicapped my artist as a creative director. But if I make a decision now and say, try this, and this is what I'm looking for, and in 10 minutes, they can come back with a rough, again, sorry, I keep on calling you Kat, but Kat and I are working on a project that rather than having somebody create a beautiful storyboard once every 4 hours, We have one artist who's making something that's barely recognizable as a napkin sketch every 5 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And that's allowing my editor to throw in 50 things every hour, and we hit play 50 times. We're like, is that it? I can't, was that supposed to be a person or was that a car? Oh, that's a person. Okay, cool. No, move the car over here. Give me another one. And 30 seconds, they can sketch it, they can move it around, or in the edit, we can play around with it. And then we just iterate visual fidelity. That's why, like, the sooner you can get used to making mistakes with your decision making on a timeline, and it's something that's as close to in situ as possible, the faster you'll become a much better creative director or a business owner or a freelancer with your own work. I think that answered maybe the first half of the question. I didn't fully understand the second half, but I hope that was that Petrula. I hope that answered what you were looking for.
Petrula, did that answer your? Oh yeah, she said, "I love this answer."
Okay, good.
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right. So we have, fail upward. We have 5 minutes remaining.
Oh my
If
God,
anybody,
that's going by fast.
if anybody has any other questions, feel free to turn on your camera or drop it in the chat. I will wait just a second. Let's see if we've got more. Okay, so Ryan, I'm going to close unless any other questions show up here. So Guillermo del Toro, is he your favorite film director of all time?
This is like the hardest question in the world. I would say, like, this is like trying to figure out the difference between favorite and best. I think, man, I go back and forth. Like I grew up with Steven Spielberg, so I disqualify him because he has too many films, and I feel like that's nostalgia. So I try to try to step away from it. I would say there's probably some world where there's a tie between Miyazaki, Pete Docter, and Guillermo del Toro. And I would tie to put a bow on all this, because I think all three of them find a way to take their very specific, peculiar personal obsessions, turn it into like a voice, and then use that to describe their vision throughout an impossibly long career. Like, if you know anything about any of them, like, all three of them have made very commercially successful films about very weird things, but they also, each film is almost kind of like in conversation with each other. Like, they learn something from one that changes the way they do something with another. And to be able to observe, like if you know how Miyazaki makes his films, like, it's unlike any other anime director, and the anime directors are unlike any other animation director, which are very different than live action directors. Like, he will literally create a basically pitch book full of watercolor images that he's like, I don't even know who all the characters are. I'm not entirely sure what the story is, but if I can get enough money to get you 50 people on my team to believe in me for 4 to 6 years, this is what we're going to do. And then he goes off and basically goes in a room and storyboards the first 20 minutes as fast as he can, so his animators have something to do, so they're not burning money just sitting there. And then while they're making the film, the first 20 minutes, he goes off and storyboards another 20 minutes. And invariably, what almost always happens is by the end of his film, they have 3 months left before the movie's supposed to go in theaters, and he's still storyboarding the last 20 minutes. He's not doing the like assembly line, let's figure out the general idea and the theme, and then let's do like the act structure, and then let's add some lines, and then let's maybe animate, and then he's literally like, they're doing finished production within like the first 6 months. And then at some point, he's got a team of 100 people just like, I don't have anything to do because you don't know what the movie is. How fast can you get it done? And he's basically putting himself through the most torment. To do that once is impossible. To do a lifetime of that with films that don't follow any other mold, don't follow any other formula, and still break records, and still be 80 years old and want to do it, and still have tried to retire 3 times and can't stop, and have things that are making commentary on the world today. It's a one of one. There's no one else like that, right? So I guess I'd say Miyazaki. Sorry, Guillermo. And Guillermo's like a 1.25, like as close as you can get to it.
I love that. Severo, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. I saw your hand up. If you have a question, now is the time, because we've got just like 1 minute left, or drop it in the chat and we'll try and get the question to Ryan. And while I'm waiting for that, Ryan, how can we support you?
I mean, you've already supported me so much in my career. I don't even know. I would say I'm getting ready to start Keys and Curves back up, so you could follow that, my Substack. It's been on pause for the last month or two while I went through being laid off and finding a new job and having to move, like a bunch of stuff. But where that's going to come back, and it'll probably come back with a vengeance. There'll be a lot more. But I mean, that's just a great community, and it's just basically me sharing stuff I find that I like. So that's cool. That'd be great.
Here's your last question. I'm going to be
Mhm.
fast because I know you have to get out of here.
Yeah.
What would you say to somebody whose obsession, voice, and vision doesn't have a commercial way to pursue it?
Don't worry about commercial. The whole point about the whole reason we got into this to be a capital A artist is not to figure out how can we turn ourselves into the most obvious way to make money. That's not why we do this, right? Like that's a different. I'm going to invoke your Christo again. We're not here to be bricklayers. If bricklaying is part of your career, that is totally fine. But if we're talking about like you are sacrificing so much of your life to take your, most people will not be crazy enough to do this, right? It will come eventually, is the only thing I could say, is if you invest in yourself to create your own voice, whether what it is will be defined by you, whether it's personal satisfaction, answering the questions of life, making lots and lots of money, whatever that thing will end up being. But if you don't do that, you will definitely feel, if you're asking this question, you will definitely feel a level of dissatisfaction of just following what other people who have voice, vision, obsession, having to follow them for the rest of your life. So I would be like, and it's not what you do from 9 to 5. It's the stuff you do outside of that that gives you that fuel and builds the obsession and creates the voice and the vision. It's about holistically being a capital A artist, if that makes any sense.
Beautiful. Ryan Summers, I can't thank you enough for taking this time to speak with us. It's so nice to see you again. It's been a
Same
long
man.
time.
Some point we'll high five again in real life. It'll be there.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. This has been another episode of the Developing Life podcast. Thank you for joining us. And please follow Ryan Summers and check out his Substack at Key and Curves. Have a great day.
Thank you all.